Alright everyone, well, I know I've been pretty behind on my movie reviews lately, and I figured I'd get one in, and that is for my most anticipated movie of 2023, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the third and, well, apparently last one of the franchise. And, wow, I was right to choose this one as my most anticipated movie of 2023. My number one, because I can safely say without a doubt, with all the positive reactions, the box office success that it had, let me just say, I'm right there with them. Believe me. Now, first of all, I'm going to start with a spoiler-free review part, and then go into somewhat spoiler territory. Nothing major or giving away, especially at the end or anything like that. So, yes, spoiler-free to start with. Yes, it was worth it. Yes, it's a 2.5-hour runtime. It obviously isn't the first one to exceed 2 hours. And yes, of course, James Gunn returns as the director, even after all the speculation, being fired from the series, which would have been a huge mistake because, let's face it, he's made to direct this trilogy. I mean, he directed not only this, but of course the Suicide Squad reboot, which he did a fantastic job rebooting it and making it much better than the 2016 film, as well as, having part in the Peacemaker series. But okay, not to get too off track. He did a fantastic job with this movie too as well. The first one was unexpectedly a big hit, despite all the criticism the trailer got when it first released, and it was a huge success. Yeah, a little bit of eye candy here and there, but the characters were great, they all played their part in the film, the action was great, and most notably, the old school music that they used throughout. And that success continued into the 2017 sequel, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. New characters, more development on them, bigger story, more old school music. So it would obviously seem that it would get a third movie, and after many years of delays, it finally happened this year, and like I said, it was worth all the hype. Yes, again, 2.5 hours seems like a lot to really do with one plot, and I didn't really know what they were going to do with this. I saw mostly in the trailer it was going to be about Rocket the Raccoon's past, which I didn't really know how much they were going to do with this. We know he's obviously going to be some kind of like a mutant raccoon, because what raccoon can talk? But then again, it's the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, what can't be possible? I mean, you got all the weird things that happen in here, and especially this one is no exception. So, yeah, it actually explores his past a lot, and it's very emotional to say the least. Yeah. I mean, crazy to think that a story about a talking raccoon and a talking tree root that only says 3 words would be this emotional. But then again, it's not the first one to go into an emotional moment. I mean, the first and second one had that. And this one definitely takes him to the bigger step about his character in particular. And also, those of you who haven't seen the holiday special or Christmas special, whatever the hell you call it, on Disney+, I recommend it. It's good. Not great like the first 2 films, but it's worth a watch, whether it's Christmas or not. And it obviously leads up to this film. And yeah, most of the characters and everything are back, Star-Lord, the main leader himself, Gamora, even though despite the fact that most of you who have seen Avengers Endgame probably know it's not the same one from the first 2 Guardians of the Galaxy movie. It's actually the one from the past who came along with Thanos and obviously Nebula. So, yeah, that may seem a little off at first, but the movie itself, it makes it work. If you see it for yourself, it explains plenty and tries to get her assimilated into the plot, as well as Drax the Destroyer, Groot, and of course, like I said, Rocket, and a bunch of other characters like Sean Gunn as Gracklin, who pretty much takes the mantle up from Yondu after his sad passing in the second movie. I don't think I have to say spoiler alert since most of you probably seen that. You also got returning as Mantis, Sylvester Stallone's character who makes a rather brief cameo as Starhawk, and even that dog who you've probably seen in a couple of brief appearances in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie as well as a couple of brief moments in the holiday special, actually makes a much larger appearance in this and actually talks. Well, sort of. Kind of reminds me of the dogs from Up a little bit, uses a voice thing, but yeah, that dog, known as Cosmo the space dog, is actually pretty funny and plays a pretty big part in the movie's plot as well. So, yeah, those are most of the returning characters, as well as Ayesha, the golden lady from the last movie. She plays a rather pretty big role in this, as well as some new characters. One of them, most notably, is Adam Warlock, played by Will Poulter. Yeah, you've probably seen him in the third Narnia movie, as well as the comedy movie We're the Millers. Yeah, well, you think he's the main villain in this movie, but again, I'm not going to give too much away. He is, somewhat. But most notably, the main villain is actually High Evolutionary. And yeah, he plays a pretty big part in Rocket's backstory. So it sort of reminds me of William Stryker from X-Men, how he has to do a lot with Wolverine's past. So that's as far as I'll go right there. The plot, as I said, is fantastic. Very well paced. Maybe it could have used a little better mix of old school music. It actually has a little more newer music. I expected a little bit better compared to the last two movies. Not to bash it. I mean, you have one really good fight scene, and there's a lot of them in this movie that are really great. When, that one with the Beastie Boys music in the background, it actually fits really well. It's a blast to watch. All the action scenes and everything are fantastic. It has a lot of great CG and mix of actual practical effects. I mean, it really just keeps you entertained all throughout. Lots of eye candy in here. Lots of different new locations that they explore that you haven't seen in the last movie, as well as familiar territory, which is now where I'm going to go into spoiler territory. Somewhat. Okay, so here goes. Yes, as I said, the main plot is focused on Rocket the Raccoon and his past. How he was taken and obviously brought in as a test subject and kind of given like this ability to talk and be more human-like. And as I said, he's under the High Evolutionary, the main villain of this movie. So yeah, Adam Warlock is more or less the secondary villain or anti-hero. And you obviously know he's going to end up joining the Guardians, similar to how kind of like Yondu did and Nebula did. There's plenty of great humor thrown in here as well. You've got to expect it in this kind of movie. But mostly, yeah, it's got a real emotional mood-wise with Rocket's past and everything like that, and how he makes friends with other talking animals that are trying to be part of, as High Evolutionary calls it, this ideal society called Counter-Earth. If that makes any sense. Yeah, he's got a mind of his own, and obviously he's doing everything he can and is ruthless, and he'll kill anybody he can, and wants to basically take over and create a perfect world, at least in his perspective. So, yeah, this idea may seem a little bit kind of done before, but just go with it. It works. And basically what happens is Rocket the Raccoon gets badly wounded and almost dies. So it's all about trying to bring him back to life. They have to jump through hoops and do everything they can to try to save him. And that's what the whole movie's about. Doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, it actually does a lot with it. They go to new territory, as I mentioned before. It's not afraid to take the extra leap. They go into an Earth-like planet where the people are all different animals and creatures, and it's actually really creative. You even get one F-bomb dropped in that one scene, which is kind of shocking, but then again, it's not the first time we've heard it in a Marvel movie. First time in an MCU film, though, to be exact. I mean, but it was kind of hilarious, though. But then again, it's PG-13, so once you can let it slide. But yes, every character in this movie plays their part really well. As I said, Gamora is not the same one from the first two films. She is the one from the past, from Avengers Endgame. And as I said, with Star-Lord trying to assimilate her as the future Gamora, despite the fact she's obviously not, it may come off as awkward, but I think it works very well. Yeah, she basically ends up as a different type of person. And all the other characters play their part really well. They're funny, they're not afraid to fight, and you get plenty of that throughout this entire film, and that's what you come to expect out of these films. It takes the necessary steps in making it a worthy successor to the first two films, and of course, a very more than satisfying conclusion that, despite being somewhat predictable for the most part, not that the last two films really weren't, it also packs a lot of punches and surprises as well, and will definitely leave a smile on your face because it's entertaining as all hell. I mean, you want Kraglin to master the art of whistle spearing like Yondu did. And you want to see Rocket the Raccoon fully recover and kick some ass again, and boy, he sure does. And like I said, it's definitely a real emotional ride, filled with some kick-ass action, but again, the music selection could have been a bit better. That's my only personal nitpick right there. It doesn't outweigh all the positive aspects of this movie that I already praised about it. Yes, there are also not one, but two well, one mid-credit scene as well as an end-credit scene after. I recommend sticking on for the middle credit scene, but the end credit scene is kind of pointless. It's kind of pretty much on the same level as the one after the credits of the 2012 Avengers movie. Not necessary. The design on the end credits is pretty cool, though. I mean, Marvel and even DC and pretty much all these comic book studios do a great job designing them, tributing the first two films. And even though it says Peter Quill will return, well, it's not really for sure that James Gunn is going to return and make another Guardians movie. I mean, I'm happy with this one being the conclusion. I think he did a fantastic job in concluding this franchise. Even though the MCU is far from over, I'm sure they're going to obviously join in with the Avengers again. We've seen them in Thor Love and Thunder, which was a nice little touch there. Despite some of the criticisms that movie might have had, I think that was the best part of that movie right there, especially since you saw Avengers Endgame and everything like that. It worked well. So, yeah, this film, in my opinion, is definitely the best one. Great action, great humor. Music could have been a little bit better, as I said before, but I think for a 2.5-hour runtime, I was not disappointed at all. It had the great mix of comedy, action, and even emotional moments too as well. So, well done, James Gunn. I'm glad you came back, and you couldn't have made a better Marvel trilogy than this one. So, my final verdict is rockin' Wii Remote Wii Motion Plus up and a plain Wii Remote up. Yep, I guess you can say this third film and final conclusion is out of this world. So, till next time, keep watching.